keep your head up. You're not alone. Keep your head up, keep your head up. We're halfway home.
It's time for Your Voices of Hope, a video podcast program that offers straight talk on some of the major issues facing us today: addiction, domestic violence, homelessness, human trafficking, and suicide. But more than that, it's our desire to inspire hope. Now, your host, Michelle Beyer.
My guest today will tell you how she survived being kidnapped, held hostage, raped, and beaten repeatedly in her own home by a man she knew. A year later, this man is still walking around free. Please welcome my guest, Heather Slaughter. Welcome, Heather, and thank you for coming on today. I know how difficult this is going to be for you, but I believe someone out there is really going to need to hear your story.
Thank you, Michelle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Heather, this is going to be difficult, so we will only go as fast or as slow. We'll take it at your pace. I know it's been exactly a year today?
Tomorrow,
since this ordeal has happened. So
it was Father's Day last year, which was the 16th.
Okay, Father's Day, which is coming next week. So okay, why don't you start back and tell us what happened? This is you were dating this man.
I was fresh out of a marriage of 12 years. I was dating different men.
Right, you were dating, like a lot of us do, after we leave a marriage and we're done, and we don't want to get serious about anything, it makes sense. So it's Father's Day.
I had just come home from visiting my father. He was here. And when I walked in the door, he asked me if I was hungry. I told him no, I had just eaten. Sat and just small talk for a few. And then he confronted me about some things he found in my room.
So I'm sorry, what did he find in your room?
Condoms. I mean, why lie? Yeah, I've got condoms. Yeah. And it just escalated from there. Next thing I know, I was trying to push my way to get out the door. He had me in the kitchen, trying to push past him, and my knife block in the kitchen fell over. And at that point, he picked up a steak knife and put it into my side and forced me back to my bedroom.
When you say put it into your side, did he just pressure?
Just pressure. He didn't injure me at that point, but it was a threat. A threat.
Oh, and he pushed you back into the bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
And from there...
I don't even remember the sequence of events and what came first and what came last. And well, I mean, I know what came last, but the sequence of events, I don't remember. But it was hours. He took my phones, both phones, work phone and personal phone. So I wasn't able to contact anybody. And then at that point, it kind of started with, he wanted to go through my phone, and he wanted me to unlock my phone so he can go through my phone. Because I wouldn't unlock my phone, that's where the physical assaults really started.
And why wouldn't you unlock your phone?
Because it wasn't his business.
Okay.
I mean...
I agree.
It was none of his business who I was talking to. Mm-hmm. And the thing is that leading up to this, I was going to cut it off with him anyhow, I mean, there was things about him that the red flags were there.
Do you
And
sense that?
I don't know,
Okay.
maybe because the week prior to, he wanted to visit, and I given multiple different excuses as to why, he couldn't visit. So maybe he did feel that it was getting ready to end. Um, I don't know. I don't know.
And so you're getting this impression from him that he's a little controlling.
Yes. Yeah.
You
Um,
ever get the feeling
thing,
that he was violent?
I knew that there was a past of something.
Okay.
I didn't know the extent, the details. Um, and again, I mean, we had only been talking just a couple months,
Hmm.
so it was still just really getting to know each other. But
Right.
again, those red flags were starting to show.
Right.
Stories that he would tell, you could tell he was fabricating stories, trying to make himself appear bigger or better than what he was. You could just tell that they were lies, flat out lies. And when you called him out on things, he was confrontational.
Right. Yeah, you can't do that to a narcissist.
Yeah.
You cannot bring their faults out or bring up their lies. So now he has you trapped in your own apartment and in your bedroom. Tell us what's
Which,
going on.
interestingly, I'm sitting in that same bedroom today.
Okay. What is do you remember the fear? Do you remember what is
Hmm.
going on?
I remember I kept thinking to myself, this is how it's going to end. Like, this is, I was fresh out of a marriage that was miserable for 12 years. And, I was looking forward to, I had such a bright spirit to me at that time, it was like a fresh start. And I just kept thinking to myself, like, this is really how my life is going to end, like this tonight.
So you
I
thought
didn't know what to
it was
expect.
going to end.
Mhm.
It was that.
Yeah. At some point, he had picked up a pair of cricket scissors. They're very sharp, pointy ends, and he had them in his pocket, um, along with that steak knife he had put in his other pocket. So I was threatened with both the knife and the scissors. He threatened to cut my hair. Um, he threatened to dismember me limb by limb and make me suffer the way that he felt he was suffering.
He was suffering from you? You were making him suffer?
After he saw conversations in my phone, he accused me of cheating on him.
But you were just dating.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Which, come to find out later on, he's married and was married the whole time. He told me he lived with his sister.
Okay.
I didn't know that at the time.
Of course. Of course.
Hmm.
Sure. I mean,
Yeah.
they're very good at hiding things. Abusive men are known for being a narcissist, hiding things, very abusive
Yeah. You
people.
know, it's it's interesting to me because, looking back on a marriage where I was repeatedly cheated on, throughout that marriage. And we do, when we're in love, we tend to have those blinders on, we don't want to see the truth. And I told myself, when I left that marriage, that I would not have those blinders on anymore. And I was aware of these red flags that he was showing. I was very much aware of them.
So he has you hostage in your own home. He's raping you.
That was after the physical assault. So the physical assault went on for hours. I can't tell you what time. He made me take my Fitbit off so I couldn't see the clock. He had taken my phone. So, um, and then the physical assault really started after he forced me to finally open my phone and unlock my phone. And he saw conversations that I was having with somebody else. He saw that I had been with somebody else the previous weekend. And that's where it escalated from there. Um, he bit me, and he bit me so hard. Um, that I had bruising, and I still have scar tissue from today. He bit me on my chin, pulled my hair, smacked me, scratched me, stomped on my feet. Um, hours. I'm not even sure how long it went on. I remember standing in front of the only window in my bedroom, and thinking, like, how can I escape from here? I kept trying to look around my room and try and find something that I could defend myself with. Um, Against him, a knife and a pair of very sharp scissors. He did have, both to my neck at one point. Never did puncture my skin, but the threat was there and they were up against me. He continued to threaten me with, like, his people, that he would get his people. He wanted me to feel torture. He wanted me to, just like I said, he threatened to dismember me limb by limb so I could feel the hurt and the pain that he felt I caused him.
And were you saying anything back to him at this point?
I mean, stop. I can't breathe. I was hyperventilating as I'm trying to, you're in that flight or fight mode. And I was trying to figure out how to get out. I was trying to figure out how to escape. My dogs were right here, but he had them barricaded with the baby gates that I have up, so they couldn't get to me. My window in my bedroom is an old window and it's a double pane. I thought maybe I could just jump through it, and escape through the window. And I couldn't. And I knew as soon as I attempted that I was going to cause more damage to myself. It wasn't until he dropped the scissors at some point, and he didn't realize that he dropped them. All this time, I mean, again, for hours, he's on my phone, he's on his phone, he's taking his phone and taking pictures of conversations on my phone. He's telling me that he's sending them to his people, and that his people are, responding back that they're on their way here. I mean, the threats were,
Oh, this this is torment. At any point did you feel like, just please kill me and get this over with, because
yeah,
I can't take this anymore?
I did. I did. But that wasn't an option. And I knew it wasn't an option. Um, so when he dropped those scissors, I found an opportunity. And I grabbed those scissors and I literally just stuck them in my pants, in the backside of my pants, like on my backside. And until I knew what my next move was going to be. But I knew I had protection at that point. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I mean, because I don't even remember what he was saying at this point, because I'm in my head going, how do I escape this? I've got scissors in my hand now. I can get out of here. I can make this stop. And the next time he lunged at me, I stabbed him. I stabbed him in the shoulder, and there was intent to stab him exactly where I stabbed him, because I did not want to kill him. I wanted to make sure I didn't want to kill him, because I don't have that in me. And I certainly didn't want to deal with a dead body on my floor.
Oh, Heather.
So I had time to think, I can do enough damage to make him stop,
Did
but
it?
not take his life. It did make him stop. The physical assault, the emotional and the mental definitely continued. So I stabbed him in, like, the shoulder blade area, and the blood was pouring out. It was all over my room. And I just remember him taking his hand, and the blood was running down his arm. And I remember him taking his hand and wiping the blood off of his arm, and then he wiped it down my wall. And then from there, he did it again, and he wiped the blood again, and then he wiped it down my face. And then it was after that that he forced me to have sex with him, covered in blood. Blood all over my room, blood all over him, blood all over me. And he forced me to have sex with him. After I had stabbed him, I just dropped the scissors. I do remember I hid them under my mattress at one point. But I knew that he would find them there. I mean, it's kind of an obvious place. I didn't know what to do.
You're lucky to be alive. You do realize that, right? How many days? Because this wasn't just one day, this was over several days, correct?
Yeah, he kept telling me throughout that night, you're not going to work tomorrow, because this was a Sunday night. You're not going to work tomorrow. You're not going to work tomorrow. And I thought, well, I have to communicate with work and let them know. And I was trying to figure out, because he did hand me my phone long enough to send a text to my supervisor. And I was trying to figure out how I could communicate maybe danger or an emergency. But he was, right over my shoulder watching me as I texted. And I don't even remember exactly what I said in that text, but I think it was something along the lines of family emergency, and I won't be in.
And since I work with you and I receive text, that is exactly what you said. And it came at 5 o'clock in the morning, which
5:30 when my alarm went off.
it's a little early for you to text us.
Yeah.
I didn't catch on. None of us caught on. And why would we?
Of course.
However, a family emergency, you usually told us what that was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There isn't one family emergency that you've ever had that you did not share with us. And you've
Right.
gone through so much with your family, including the recent passing of your sister-in-law.
Yeah, that's another topic.
So you call in or text into work and you tell everybody that you have a family emergency and you're not going to be in. And from there, do you go back to sleep?
I don't think I got much sleep. I mean, I remember
That was sarcasm.
just being, I know, so exhausted that I needed to close my eyes, but I was scared. Am I going to wake up?
Yeah.
I think when I text you guys at work, I hadn't even been to sleep at that point yet. This had been ongoing all night. So I did finally doze off. And when I woke up, and again, I don't know what time because I didn't have my phones. I didn't have a clock. He was already awake and he was cleaning up the blood in my room.
Oh, how noble of him.
Mm-hmm. There was still blood all over my mattress. And he was like a different person.
Of course.
He says, you're probably really sore. Let me run you a hot bath. And he ran me a bath. And then he made me get into the bath and watched me wash myself to make sure I had washed myself.
That's disgusting.
And then from there, my injuries were starting to show. They were starting to become very visible, especially my chin. And he recommended we go to the store so he could show me what to buy, which he recommended Noxzema. Put the Noxzema on your face and just let it sit and dry. I do it all the time. And I'm like,
oh.
So we went to the store. We went to Rite Aid. at that point, he's still threatening me with his people, and he sent my address to everybody, and, I can't say anything. And so the fear is still there, the fear is still there, and it's very much real. And, obviously you can't like walk into a Walmart looking the way you did. And again, Father's Day last year, it was very hot. And when I left this house, I put a hoodie on so I could hide as best as possible.
That's not suspicious looking at all.
In the back of my mind, I was hoping it was suspicious enough that maybe somebody would make a phone call.
In these days that people mind their own business.
Yeah.
And that does not always help anybody. When you're in the store, are you looking around and thinking what kind of a signal I could give somebody, and somebody please help me, and something? I mean,
There's just so much fear inside of you. And yeah, you do want somebody to help you. You're afraid to call out. And, in the back of my mind, I keep thinking, people know where I live. Even if I'm not with him, his people are going to get me if I turn him in.
oh my goodness. So you pick up your Noxzema.
Yeah.
That's
And of course, some makeup to try and cover up, and picked up a few different things. Yeah.
did you?
No, I didn't. It's cutting in and out. I'm sorry.
I said you should have just used Vicks.
Yeah. Me and my Vicks.
Vicks for everything.
It's a cure-all. It's a cure-all.
Everything.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. I just need
That's
to
okay.
get that because he thinks Noxzema is a cure-all, but
Yeah.
that stings.
Yeah.
So you go back to your house.
And he's showing me how to apply the makeup. Like, he's literally the one putting makeup.
This before, obviously.
Yeah. Yep.
S-
Which I've later come to find out that he absolutely has.
Okay, so now how many days were you in captive with him?
2.5.
Two and
Till Tuesday. It was till Tuesday morning.
2.5 days.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine. When you were set free, what happened after that? The cops.
Michelle, it took me days to report it. And now I know why. We hear the stories of why women won't report these things.
Yes.
So I had a doctor's appointment already scheduled for Thursday morning. And again, that fear, of his people. And at this point, he's communicating with me. He's texting me, and I'm trying to avoid him. But I wanted to keep the peace because people knew my address until I could figure out, I just wanted it to go away. Just, cut ties and go away. And trying to figure out my next move, I mean, psychologically, I'm a mess. I can't think straight. So after he finally released me, the first thing I did was call my two best friends. And they came over right away. They're the ones who talked. Well, I didn't. I'm sorry. That was Wednesday when they came over. I kept it a secret. Even talking to my parents, I would just text my mom and say, I have a headache. I'm laying down. I'm not going to call you today. The only one who knew was my really good friend and neighbor, Adam. And he stayed with me Tuesday night. Wouldn't leave me alone. Wednesday, still communicating with this guy. And again, I'm just trying to keep the peace and make sure his people aren't coming after me.
What a scary feeling.
In the meantime, he's dealing with his injury, and he's texting me telling me that he's in the hospital, that he has some sort of infection and has to have a blood transfusion, and his case manager wants to know who did this to him, and he's trying to protect me. And I mean, the manipulation just continued and continued, so I mean, he was trying to turn it on me, how I could lose my job, how, because I assaulted him. That's a felonious assault. I'm going to go to prison. I mean, the manipulation, the psychological, it just continued. It just continued. And it wasn't until Wednesday evening, when I sat down with my two best friends, I let them know what was going on. And Thursday morning, I had a doctor's appointment that was already scheduled. So I knew by going there that she's mandated to report it anyhow. So it was time to do it the right way. And my friend Becca came with me to my doctor's appointment. My doctor did ask me if I wanted a rape test done. I declined at that point because it had been days and he made me wash. There was no trace of evidence there. At least in my mind. From there, right after the doctor's appointment, Becca and I went straight to the police department and on to the next challenge. So I go into the police department to go report this, and you have to go into this little room and pick up a phone, which calls dispatch. And I let dispatch know that I needed to report an assault. She asked me when the assault happened. I told her on Sunday, on Father's Day. The next words out of her mouth: "Why did you wait so long to report it?" I blew up. You have no idea what I went through. You have no idea what my mind was put through, what my body was put through, what I was put through. Don't judge me. I'm reporting it now. So I told her, I said, "Just get me an officer," and I hung up on her. Officer came out into the lobby area where there's other people, where Becca and I are sitting waiting for them. And he proceeds to ask me what happened in front of other people. And I looked at him and I said, "Right here?" He says, "Well, we have nowhere else to go." So I started to talk and I couldn't. And then my friend Becca kind of got really loud with him, like, come on, give her some privacy. And then another officer came out and took me to the back where they did a video interview with me. And then I had to leave there and bring the original officer back to my house to collect evidence. As I'm trying to show him where the blood is, where the scissors are, there was a can of hairspray also with his bloody fingerprints on it because he threatened to set me on fire with the can of hairspray. The officer treated me like, "No, you can't walk in there. No, you can't. I got this, and made me stand back. The whole process was just...
So did you go to court or charges pressed against him?
I've been to court numerous times at this point. Charges were pressed against him. They did press charges for kidnapping, rape. Those were the two original charges. I had to testify in front of the grand jury and tell my story. The grand jury no-billed. And the excuse that I got from the prosecution was there wasn't enough evidence. I had text messages, I had conversations, we've got blood all over my room. How much more evidence do you need?
I don't understand that.
They told me that there was, they couldn't obtain the video from Rite Aid. It's just excuses. It just seemed like excuses. I mean, granted, grand jury's made up of 9 people. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I know the process. I had just sat on that grand jury. I know the process.
Right.
But I also knew that I wasn't giving up. And I went through the appropriate steps. I went and filed a protection order. Um, First, they were going to dismiss it because he wasn't present for it. Well, he doesn't live in the state. And it was just 2 days prior to that the grand jury had no billed and released him from jail. So he was already home and back in Pennsylvania. When I went through the process of getting the protection order from the magistrate, when I had to tell my story again with just this man and me in a room alone, he proceeds to tell me, it's just a piece of paper. And I said, yes, I'm aware it's just a piece of paper, but these are the steps that we as women or victims, survivors, need to take along the process. And I said, it's a good thing I went and I bought a gun to protect myself. And he says, you better hope that he doesn't get your gun and beat you with it. What kind of training?
It doesn't sound like you had a very good experience with the legal system. So you get a no bill.
Yeah.
You're trying to get a protection order.
Yep.
Everything is going his way. Where is all of this?
I mean, it's discouraging, I mean, it's like,
It is.
I can't let him get away with this on somebody else because it's just a matter of time. We'd only been talking for a couple months and he did this to me. He's going to kill somebody. He's a very dangerous person. And I refused to give up. I refused to give up. And I went back and I spoke to another prosecutor. I presented more text messages, every single thing I had in my phone. I presented it to him. Again, they wanted to blame the local police department. Nobody wants to take responsibility for anything.
Right.
So I was able to go in front of the grand jury again. And this time it was a secret indictment. And with that secret indictment, it's not necessarily bringing specific charges. It's here's the evidence, and the grand jury decides what charges to bring. I can't speak on much more of that right now because it is still ongoing.
Really, a year later.
A year later, I'm in communication. I'm not allowed to know anything because it's sealed. It's a secret indictment.
But he's still walking around free.
He's still walking free.
Are you walking around in fear?
That fear has subsided because I'm a researcher. I'm an investigator by nature. It's in my blood. You know that.
Yes, I do.
I've found out a lot more information on my own. And again, I'm not going to go into too many details just because, this case is still open. But I've found out a lot more information over time and over this year to where I'm not fearful. However, about 2 months ago, he did try to contact me and add me on social media. So that has, I guess, reopened the process again. I'm in communication with the prosecutor. I'm calling him every week. They know I'm not backing down on this. I'm done with the excuses. This man needs to be arrested. And you're not going to just get rid of me. It doesn't just go away.
No. But Heather, if anyone can do this, it's going to be you. I've known you for 3 years. You're a very strong woman.
Thank you.
I've watched you come through this in an amazing way. A lot of people would not have. It's not like you've bounced back.
I was going to say, it's not so amazing when I'm snapping, right? When I'm snappy and I'm...
Well, you are at times, but seriously, you're not a basket case in a corner somewhere.
No, no.
You know,
Um,
gonna come back at you at times.
I
It's
immediately connected with the Rape Crisis Center, and I am so grateful for counseling. Even with my own personal experience in the field, um, it's completely different when something happens to you.
yes, it is, and it's and I felt bad, and I was almost made to feel bad, not by you, that I couldn't, as a peer support specialist, but it hit home for me.
Yeah, yeah. Of
So,
course, they're triggers. They're triggers.
but
I mean,
you were so amazingly strong. You went to counseling, you're still going to counseling.
so I just had counseling today.
You are you've lost this, you look amazing. You have lost so
Thank you.
much weight. I think what I'm going to do, if you don't mind, I usually put up these great pictures of every. I think I'd like to put both pictures up of you on the video when I share it. I'll have to ask my producer if I can do that. He might just be like, "Really, Michelle?" But I can ask him.
And interestingly, I mean, that weight loss journey, it started even before all that started. My weight loss journey started the time of the separation of my husband.
Right,
I was, trying to toss out all that bad stuff, renewed energy, this fresh start. And I began the keto diet or the keto lifestyle, because if you consider it a diet, you're going to quit and you're going to gain it back, right? So it's
right.
got to be a lifestyle. And it certainly has become a lifestyle. Granted, I have my cheat days and I have my bad days, but it has become a lifestyle. And December 1st, 2018, is when I began my journey. And by my 40th birthday in October last year, I had lost 100 pounds.
Wow. See, that's amazing. Congratulations. That
I'm never going to give up on myself. That's one thing for sure. I'm never going to give up. I'm always going to be a fighter. My parents raised a warrior, you know.
yes. And so what else? I mean, you do so many things. You do with Ohio Can. Or you're now the on the board. You're the president now.
Yes,
You know,
it's just a title, please. I don't have the experience. I don't feel like I'm.
but tell us what Ohio Can is.
So Ohio stands for Change Addiction Now. And Ohio Can is an organization that started out as a family voice, to change the stigmas surrounding substance use and addiction. Addiction as a disease, of course. Um, and it has flourished, um, just a year and a half now into an official 501c3 nonprofit organization. Um, I've kind of been there since the beginning, even when I worked in juvenile detention, and I met Brenda and Cindy, and I got them to come and talk to the kids. And it was just fantastic listening to the stories and watching the love and the passion that they had for people in recovery, people who are active users, and the harm reduction approach. So it was all kind of new and unfamiliar territory for me, and I was interested in learning more because I dealt with, juveniles at the time. And then moving into the role at ICANN Housing, um, certainly broadened my knowledge and experience more. And of course, there's personal, experience as well with substance use, within the family. So it was just a perfect fit to kind of be part of this family and that family voice. And Ohio Can has, I mean, just Ohio Can is in, I'm not even sure how many counties. We just added on a few more counties. Each county in Ohio that we are in, there's something different going on. And it depends on our volunteer leaders in each county as to what they're passionate about. For some, it might be kinship programs, targeting specifically like those grandparents who are now raising their grandchildren, due to substance use.
Right.
For some, it's the harm reduction.
I'm just gonna say right now, If you could look back about 10 minutes ago on this video to right now,
Hmm.
the light is shining through you right now. It's an amazing transformation because you have not let that evil
No, no.
take over your life.
And you know,
Beacon of light, you are going to help a lot of people with this video because it's not over. Your life
no,
doesn't have to be over.
no,
And the
no.
justice system is very, very flawed, but that doesn't mean you have to give up and die.
Right. No, that's never going to happen. I mean, again, it's the fight within me, whether we're fighting, the stigma surrounding substance use to homelessness and permanent supportive housing to, the judicial system and the reform that needs to happen, and decriminalizing substance use and improving the psychological stuff that needs to happen. I mean,
So, when you look towards your future, your bright future, what does your future look like to you? What do you see for your future?
I don't know. I don't. Um, you know, I said at the beginning of 2020, everybody always makes resolutions and whatnot. I don't make resolutions. I tell myself what my year is going to look like, and I said 2020 is freshness. This is going to be a fresh start for me. And even through COVID, even through, all this ugliness that we're experiencing in the world right now, um, the bottom line is we can unlearn things that we've learned in our past, um, unlearn some of those things and move forward. And my motto this year is freshness. And I'm really just going with the flow. I am in a new relationship. Um,
Mm,
he's amazing, absolutely amazing. And it really is. We're both just kind of like going along for the ride. Whatever it looks like, we're enjoying this ride. That's it. And no expectations, no, so I don't know what the future looks like right now because there could be big changes. And
Zonka's the future is.
that's the thing, it is bright. Yeah, it is bright.
Well, I am very proud. I know that I don't say that ever, but I
You
am.
do. Thank you.
And there's a lot to be learned from you, which is why I asked to do this interview with you.
Hmm. Yeah, you've been asking for a while.
Because, again, I believe that this is going to help someone. And I really believe that you will get the justice not necessarily deserved towards him, but the justice that you need for yourself.
The justice that I need for myself comes from me.
That's
No
right.
one else. It comes from me.
And that's pretty
Um,
much what I was saying.
yeah, that comes from me.
Because
I'm
not, as you know, control other people.
absolutely, absolutely.
So,
And through it all, and I know a lot of people will not understand this, but I'm a very forgiving person,
mhm.
and I have maybe a different sense of understanding of mental health than other people. Um, I don't hold a grudge against him. He needs to be locked up, and he needs to be locked up to protect any other victims.
Right.
So this doesn't happen to anybody else. And that's why he needs to be locked up. And he also needs to be locked up so he can get the help that he needs. Um, and although I know that probably won't happen until our judicial system is changed, I could just hope and pray that he'll be off the streets long enough, to keep some other women safe. Um, but I do forgive him.
And I'd like to end it at that. Because forgiveness is the way you heal.
Yep.
So, Heather, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you, Michelle.
And thank you all for joining me again today for another episode of Your Voices of Hope. And if you have a story of hope and recovery, please go to my website, yourvoicesofhope.com, or my Facebook page and send me a message, and I will hook up with you and we'll tell your story together. So until we meet again, have a great day. Thank you, and remember to love yourself.
You've been listening to Your Voices of Hope with your host, Michelle Beyer. This podcast and earlier programs are available for viewing on our Facebook page, Your Voices of Hope, or our website, yourvoicesofhope.com. A new podcast is uploaded and ready to view every Wednesday at 7 o'clock p.m.
Keep your head up, keep your head up. You're not alone.